Okay, guys, this shouldn't take too long. We have two excellent reports in front of us. Could I have apologies in order of business, John, please?
Order of business as published, Chair. I think there's an apology from Councillor Montgomery.
Okay, thank you. Any declarations of interest? Okay, minutes of the meeting of 21st of January for approval. Agreed? That's all, Jim, thank you. Alex, sorry. Inspection St Mary's Primary School. Nursery class, sorry.
Morning, everyone. I think we can all see, as we've heard already, this is a very strong report on St Mary's Primary School nursery class. If we look, as most people do when they look at reports from Inspectorate, we tend to go straight to the quality indicators, rightly or wrongly, probably unfairly, but it does give us an immediate view of the provision. We can see that of the 4 main areas, 3 are very good, which would suggest that they have major strengths when compared to any other nursery class in Midlothian or indeed across Scotland. 1, the quality environment is slightly lower, a grade 4, which is good. Nonetheless, it's a good, safe grade, and we don't expect every evaluation of every single provision in Midlothian to be very good. We want them to be very good, but we can't expect that every time. I think we also need to look at the wording, because I think that tells us the story rather than the bald facts. I think we see here that we're talking about an inspection team noting that our children in this provision in Midlothian are happy, that they have a learning environment that stimulates them, that challenges them, and that the staff are enthusiastic, caring, work well together, which I think is very, very important. So, overall, what we're talking about is a provision that's delivering for our young children. It's giving them a positive start in life. It means that when these children then go on from nursery class to primary school, we would expect that they've been given a very strong start here, and I think that's absolutely right that we pass on our congratulations to the staff, because it's a challenging area dealing with young children, particularly when some of them suffer from multiple deprivation. And I think very, very importantly, we note in the report that what we want to do here as a service is to say well done to people, but also say let's aim even further, because very good is great to get in evaluations, but what we would want in Midlothian is even more in the way of excellent evaluations. We've got to keep aiming higher.
Thank you. Jim?
Yeah, I'm really pleased to see both reports here today showing such a good performance. Early years is obviously preschool education is really, really important in terms of better outcomes for youngsters in the longer term. It's no, it's almost predictable there to get the good as far as the environment's concerned, given that it's an older school. It's no, we're now in a situation where half our schools are brand new, they're fit for purpose, they're specifically designed for the kind of education that takes place in them, and it's really it's good to see that the other quality indicators there are very good, and that it's no the fact they're not quite as good premises as perhaps some of the other schools. It's no affecting the care and support, the staff and the management and the leadership. So it's an excellent report, and congratulations to the staff and pupils for achieving it.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Okay, can I agree to congratulate the staff all round. The last report is item 6 is inspection of Moorfoot primary nursery class.
Again, I think it would be fair to say that there can be a tendency to see similarities in some of these reports, particularly from the Care Inspectorate, or maybe I would say that. What I would point out here and highlight to people, obviously, is that what we've got is a situation of 4 very goods which technically is just a really good set of quality indicators. Again, that's implying major strengths in quality of care and support, major strengths in the environment, staffing, management and leadership. It's exactly what I and we want to hear in our Midlothian provisions. Again, moving beyond the bald facts to a wee bit more in the way of narrative. We're talking about children, very good play and learning opportunities, and again the language is very important here. That's chosen, that language, very good. Very good leadership, which is great, and note that the leadership's from the nursery teacher. The head teacher is the one we normally associate with leadership. But I think it's great to see that we've got leaders at all levels here, and that the nursery teacher is taking great responsibility, as they often do. And then that's augmented by the effective teamwork, obviously, from staff across the nursery. So, very positive report. And again, from my point of view, from a completely selfish point of view, from Midlothian's children, we're getting children getting a really positive start at the early stages. We know how valuable that is. We know that what we invest in them in the early stages, we're very, very light to get them out of them when it comes to literacy, numeracy, and then the crunch when they go to secondary school, and we're talking about SQA examination results. Very positive result, and again, I'm delighted that the staff are being recognised for their leadership and for their commitment and quality of provision for children.
Thank you. Questions, comments? Russell?
Yeah, thanks very much for that. And again, you know, two reports that are looking very, very positive, and rightly to say that. And it seems to now be forming a pattern right across our nursery education. We never used to get reports coming up to elected members. They were all inspection reports that were done in nursery, stayed in the department, so to speak. But my question is, and I agree with what you're saying, is, you know, the early education is so key and so important. And the pattern that's been formed seems to say to me, you know, sitting back there and looking at it, that we're doing pretty good, and it's pretty even right across the piece so far, and certainly in the ones that we've had. The question I've got then is, how is it that we start to sometimes, not always, but go downhill a little bit when we get into primary education? And some of the reports that come back don't fulfil what, you know, the nursery reports are doing, and it's just really something that, you know, there seems to be a disjoint. And I've said it before, when you go from primary 7 into S1, that there's sometimes a disjoint. It's always been a concern there, and certainly we've tried as an authority to bridge that gap. But nevertheless, it's a challenge to us, and you know, just thoughts on a postcard maybe, you know, about how we then bring these kids that are doing pretty well at nursery and getting that basic start in life, educational-wise, and yet there seems to be sometimes a drop-off when they get into primary, and the reports that come back from the inspectors' reports that come back in primary don't always fulfil the potential that was there within the nursery report.
I think there are a number of layers to the answer to that. I think, first of all, without in any way demeaning the Care Inspectorate reports, these reports will only look at certain aspects of nursery provision, the environment, the inputs from staff. What they are less secure on are the actual outcomes that the youngsters in the nursery are getting. And that's partly because it's a very, very difficult and complex area to know what a 3-year-old is actually achieving and what difference that nursery is making. So that's one aspect of it. Second aspect is we're dealing with two different beasts, and maybe that's the wrong word coming from my background, but we're dealing with the Care Inspectorate when we're talking about youngsters in nursery class. And obviously the word care is absolutely crucial there, because care is a massive part of what they're doing. When we're getting these reports that you're referring to in school, we're talking about Education Scotland, formerly HMIE, who are doing this. And again, I suppose the clue's in the name, the Education Scotland bit, saying that, yeah, we are interested in care, but actually now we're interested in education, outcomes, attainment, and so on. So I take the point, though. I think the point is that it would be wrong to be blasé that we're getting these very goods and isn't that great for Midlothian, and therefore we can just kind of put our tools away and not worry too much. That would be entirely wrong. I don't think that we are yet building on what we're doing fully. And I think that's where Curriculum for Excellence comes in, and the 3 to 18 agenda. We've got an awful lot to do. For example, next week we've got our ASG planning meetings, where we've got our schools planning together and looking to the future for next year and beyond. That's where we're going to make a difference in those areas. So I think it's a fair point. We're all delighted to get these reports. I want every nursery in Midlothian to get at least as good as these reports, if not better. I want them all to be excellent. But I suppose we've then got to translate that into making a difference. And that's my job, my team's job, working with head teachers.
Any other questions? Peter?
Councillor Russell's point is a very crucial point, and you acknowledge that. Is there not in that list of evaluations a way that one could at least address this issue that he raises, that once pupils go from nursery to primary school, that they just are not fit and proper sufficiently, so that we have another grade or quality? You have got all these things, but education is one that really ought to be included.
I think the care inspector, if they were here today, would argue that they do try to reflect the outcomes, the attainment, the achievement of the youngsters. I think what they are possibly constrained slightly by is the nature of the inspection, and to do something where we would be looking much more at the attainment in the early years would take a slightly different type of inspection. But I do also think that the early years collaborative, if we can really translate what's happening there in terms of process into making a difference, would be one area where we in Midlothian can really start to get results there. But the other thing we can do is to make sure that the transition, as we've heard already this morning, between nursery and primary is even tighter. And I think that transition, well, I know that transition across Scotland is an issue, whether it's from nursery to primary, from primary to secondary, from secondary to work, or from secondary to further or higher education. That remains a challenge, and it's one that we're absolutely committed to addressing in Midlothian. Transition can be even better, and it's my job to drive it forward.
Brian?
Just general points on the, I suppose, both the reports, and totally recognising the quality of these reports and the drive for, shall we say, continuous improvement. And on 2.5, on page 19, the inspection team recognised that nursery teacher development paragraph, it says, as part of the nursery improvement plan, a number of areas were identified, and the nursery was in the process of addressing these. I just wondering if there was a wee bit more information on what these ones were actually identified on the continuous improvement. Another point I've raised before is about roles numbers. One is for 30 and one is for 20. I'd like to know what the capacity was for both these nurseries. Are they both at capacity? What is the role kind of figures even for the feeder primary schools? I'd basically like to see more general information on the roles, and maybe that could be outside the actual inspectorate report, but part of the introduction and future reports of this nature, because it gives us a good parameter, for actually take up, and future capacity building as well within education and on into primary. And just finally on the points of education and improvement, it was Councillor Emery's points that you referred to, Peter, not Councillor Russell's points. And on the recommendations in both the reports, I can't agree recommendation 5.2, because obviously it's just a repeat from a previous agenda, and I don't think that we could have had that black too.
in terms, first of all, of what would be included in the Care Inspectorate report, we have regular meetings with the Care Inspectorate. Clearly, they decide what goes into the report in terms of the level of detail. But what we can do is we can certainly offer a view as to how the reports can be improved. I think the second point about the reference to improvements and self-assessment, I think that's always a challenging one for schools and for nurseries, that if they know that they're going to be inspected, which they do, and if they have to do a self-assessment or a self-evaluation, the risk is that they would not be as honest as they could be, because they know that that may be lifted and put into a report and in a sense almost used against them. What I would be advising our head teachers in these circumstances is to be as honest as possible, because we don't drive improvement, we don't make things better for our youngsters in Midlothian if we try to tuck things under the carpet. So I would always be saying to head teachers, be as honest as you can, identify and applaud the strengths of your nursery or your school, but at the same time, don't be afraid to face up to the fact that not any nursery can be perfect, not any school can be perfect, and let's get the issues out on the table and make sure that we deal with them. The result of that means that sometimes it will be a work in progress, but if it's a work in progress, the result of which will be even better outcomes for our youngsters in Midlothian, then that's one that I would be very happy with.
Thanks for that, Peter. And Brian, for your other point, the recommendations we've been asked to accept are on page 17, which is the covering report, no the actual report that follows. So I was asking the same question at the start, why is there two directors' names on it? Thanks. Are there any other questions for Peter?
The only other thing I had was on school rolls numbers. I wonder if that could be included in future reports.
That's something that we as part of our feedback to them, we can say that it would be. I mean, I would be of the view that the more we share with people, the more open we are, the more transparent we are, then the more information people have to decide whether it's a parent wanting to considering going to that, sending their child to that nursery or not. So I would be very happy to make sure that that's passed on to the Care Inspectorate.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Peter, I only have one. It's maybe a kind of unfair question, but. Just keeping in, I think my memory is right in saying that when the HMI report came back for Moorfoot Primary School, it was less than complimentary, maybe some 9 months ago, and I'm sure it came up at the same time as St Matthew's, if I mind right, and the St Matthew's one, working at a really old building, had a pile of very goods, and Moorfoot Primary itself, as I say, was less than complimentary. Is this an indication that things have sort of turned round in Moorfoot Primary School and that there is seen a marked improvement? I understand it's maybe something that you can't completely answer at the moment.
I probably can't completely answer it, but what I could say is that since I came here, getting on for a year ago now, that all indicators that I would have from a schools group manager, from any parental engagement we have, from professional engagement with the head teacher, is that there's a lot of strengths there, and I think there's plenty to build on, and I would be hoping that the really good report we've got here is offering us real optimism for the future of Moorfoot.
Okay, if there's no other questions, thank you very much for your attendance.